Well, if you haven't guessed it, a storm is coming. And it's actually here. And it's just fascinating some of the things that are coming together today. It's been a long time that I've always thought April Fool's Day was a real possibility. I think I told you guys that I was given the date range of 3/7 to 3/13. Church of Philadelphia, however, if those were corresponding to a date, which in my spirit it was the scripture, but it was also corresponding to a date. Good morning, Alma. Then Revelation 4:1 would be the rapture verse. When John hears come up hither, waxing along like a trumpet and the whole thing, and then he's caught up into the throne room. And that's the end of the church age. These are because of what says before that is that, hey, Paulette, this is what's to happen after all of these things, which is the church age. So let me just tell you that for a long time I've been racking my brain about why I've seen this number, but it's basically like 102 or 1002 for quite a while, and I haven't really understood it. I've even asked for assistance on this. But what I was thinking was, today's the new year. The moon was spotted in Israel last night. It's now Nisan 1, which is the first month of the year, or the 7th, however you look at it, but it's the first month. We're going to go with number 1. And if tomorrow is the second day, that would be that number, and it would be on April Fool's Day. I'm going to try to find this old video where I talked about being a fool for Christ and the foolishness, and I talked about foolishness and I went through the whole thing about being the rapture, being foolish, and believing on Jesus and the scriptures that talk about how that's foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us it's everlasting life. It's everything. And I just find that those scriptures and how many times the foolishness of Christ is brought into account really relates to April Fool's Day, because when you go back in time and you look at the origin of this day and why it is called what it's called, and even in France, I don't know if we have anyone in France today, but you could attest to this. They do have a day where they literally put a poisson, a fish, on someone's back, which represents the Christians, and kick them in the rear end. And this is where the kick me signs come from. Because when the calendar was changed, the silly Christians, the Christ followers, kept the New Year's Day as being the 1st of April. And the new calendar changed it. So this was at that time. And so that's where the mockery comes from. So if you think about the fools all leaving on that day, it's kind of like poetic justice in a way. I've always found it to be in a very intriguing time, especially with it now. You see how it corresponds with the first day or the head end of the year on the Jewish calendar. It's very interesting. So I talk about things that are very near. We also have the convergence of so many things taking place right now in the world, aside from the fact that, biblically speaking, if you go and look at Bible scholars and what many of them believe to be the date on the Gregorian calendar that we currently use, what would have been the date of Jesus' crucifixion when the earthquake was recorded in the I Ching and some of the other ancient cultures like the Chinese culture. That earthquake took place, they dated it back to April 3rd as being the day of crucifixion, and the resurrection would then be on April 6th. Now, I'm just going to tell you that I really believe that to be true. In prayer, I took that to the Lord. But if you think about it, remember the scriptures that talked about when Jesus was in front of the Pharisees and he said, I'm going to tear down this temple and rebuild it in 3 days. They said, it took 46 years to build this temple. And then in the irony in that, and it's God's foolishness, which is wisdom, wiser than man's wisdom, is they did not see that the temple was his body, obviously. And because he said that he was going to destroy this temple and rebuild it in 3 days. He's talking about the temple of his body. But the 46 years that it took to build the physical temple is related to the 46 chromosomes in a human body. And that's just God being God. You know, and that's what Trust Jesus just wrote. That's true. So 4/6 on the calendar is April 6th resurrection, and the completeness of that body is so fascinating and so perfect. I have to believe that the historic records are correct on that, of what the historians and the theologians and everyone came to the conclusion of. I know that on the Hebrew calendar, it was the 14th of Nisan and the 17th. But you've got to understand that we're all off on all this stuff. Wow, I've got 46 people in the chat in the room right now. There's 46 in the room. So I'm just giving you hope on these first days of April that we're talking about and that we're on the cusp of. We have nations preparing for war in Iran. We've got a nation preparing for war in Greenland. They sent troops from Denmark today, people to go defend Greenland because, you know, Antichrist Trump, and I'm not pulling punches. I'm calling him what I was shown that he is. He's ready to take over Greenland. He's ready to do this. He's ready to do that. If you don't see the chaos he's causing right now, then you'd have to be blind. I don't hold to the fact that, I mean, I still hold a 0.2% chance that that's incorrect. But the scriptures and everything that I've studied point to him being the person. The dreams that I have point to him being the person. And I'll just leave it at that. That's my own personal opinion, so take it or leave it. Here's the thing in the dream that I had of him, which is on my videos. You can go look at it. The thing, because I've talked about him so much, I'm tired of talking about him, quite frankly. And I think everybody's talking about him every single day, so I'm tired of that. I'd rather talk about Jesus coming back. Man, there was something exciting I was going to tell you, and now it's like, I was too much talking about this guy. What is it? Well, it'll come back to me. But Israel's preparing to attack, you know, the Houthis and the Yemenis forces that are proxied by Iran. We're, the United States, planning on bombing Iran. Oh, we've got tariffs. Oh, Liberation Day has been named 4/2. That's kind of interesting, too, because if this person really is that person, then he would love it if the Christians would all leave, because they would be liberated and it would be his time. So that's a fascinating term being used for when all the tariffs go into effect. So anyway, we have chaos. We have, gosh, big earthquakes, prayers for everyone in Thailand for that. And we have a lot of very interesting days to consider. I will say this. God's very consistent in things that he does. There's been a lot of historic things happen in Nisan. And Passover, the numbers that I received were all about Passover, the sacrifice. And God really has traditionally delivered his people during the month of Nisan. I mean, that's just a fact. The Exodus, you know, his rescue and deliverance of us through the Passover sacrifice of he himself as the lamb. Obviously, in the Passover Seder, they're looking for one of the two witnesses to arrive and drink that cup, which is Elijah's cup. And there's just so much allusion to this switching of the dispensations, so to speak. I know what I was going to tell you. Last night I had a dream. I said the storm is coming. Last night my dream was I was back in my childhood home where my rapture dream took place. I was with my parents, same scenario, except it was tornadoes that were coming. And the storm was intense. And there were 5 I remember looking out the window and going, there's 5 of them. And we all hunkered down into a room, all my family, my parents. And the strange thing is that I had a baby with me, and it was a boy. I didn't know his name. He wasn't my child. My child was, I said my daughter, and everybody's like, who's that baby? And I'm like, well, I have this baby instead of Gracie, I have this baby who's a boy. And I didn't understand exactly why, and I don't know why. But after and I'm praying the whole time, like, Lord Jesus, please make this the time that you're coming to get us. Please deliver us from all of these things. And of course, 5 is grace. The deliverance came out of grace, I believe. And then we looked up, and it was, and I know this sounds worldly, but I think it's just a representation of everything being restored to us after the storm. It was literally a sky full of, like the tornado had picked up millions and millions of dollars and were dropping it on our heads, and we were just all rejoicing and laughing because we knew God was the one doing that. And money is not, that's an object of the world, but it's a representation of heavenly inheritance, in my opinion. That's just my opinion of the dream, and I feel like we're there now. We've been there. Heather, you'll have to tell me about your tornado dream too. Oh, and tsunami dream, Anna had one on March 28th. See, storms are coming. Yes, Ohio had tornadoes. Prayers for everyone in Ohio. It's been a wild ride. We've been having all these storm systems coming across the country, and many different things. So here is the deal. The storm is here. The storm is going to bring about our deliverance and our inheritance that we've waited for. What have we been waiting for? Jesus. He's the one that possesses everything that we want and need. Yesterday, I was very down. I felt in my spirit just really troubled about, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I think it's just that sometimes we get really weary. The only desire that I have is to be with my King and to be in his kingdom. And it doesn't mean that I sit around and don't do anything here. It's just that the how do I say this? Things are different than when everything started. Like the urgency, the messages, I don't get them like I used to. And I think that's on purpose. I think that he arms us and gives us all of that at the beginning so that at the end we can learn. And I am at the point where I feel so devoid of the world. There's nothing that I really want to do other than serve Jesus, other than talk about Jesus. And yet I'm still here trying to occupy and do the same things most of you have to do, which is here we have to somehow make our way with, the necessities of life, the bills we have to pay, and the, whatever, to maintain shelter and food. And other than that, I don't really care about anything else other than people and their direction and their ultimate destination, which is hopefully heaven. So, that being said, look up. I believe that it's time and that we're so close that we just have to continue to encourage each other as we see the day approaching and continue to realize that every day is a possibility. It could be today. We're on Nissan 1, according to the moon sighting yesterday, and that takes us into a new year. I believe this new year on the Hebrew calendar is one of deliverance. Nissan has always been the time of God's people being delivered. Yeah, Anna, that's a dream of Russia and Chinese soldiers in America when she was 11. It doesn't have. Okay, Samuel, you're talking about Trump being born in the Roman Empire's territory. He comes from Assyrian blood. You can go research that and all the scriptures. I've got videos that you can watch. But here's the thing. I'm not going to get into arguments about that. I'm just telling you what I believe. And go seek out the scriptures about the love for gold. Go seek out the scriptures about fierce countenance. Go seek out the scriptures. There's so many different things, and there's nobody else that fits it, as comes in his own name. Before it's just all of these things that are the scriptures, and it is what it is. So anyway, I'm not getting into debates. I'm here to tell you my truth. I'm here to tell you my opinions. You have to take them before the Lord and the Holy Spirit, and whatever you believe, that's great. I'm one of those people that I feel like, it's okay for me to believe what I believe. I know what God showed me with the dream of Trump and him becoming a lion. I mean, that came to pass with him taking a picture with a lion on his social media account, and as the young lion. So it's, and he was in front of my face and turned into a lion with sharp teeth, asked me who I thought the main character, the main person was, and I said it was him. And before I said it was Obama. I had to give him my different accounts. I said Obama, and then Michelle was there, and I said, because he asked me who was the top 3 candidates, and I said Jared Kushner, your son-in-law, and then Ivanka was there. But then he said, then who do you think it is, the number 1? And he was like a big lion with sharp teeth, and I said, it's you. And so I'm just going with that because I know when I get dreams from the Lord, and that's one of them. And other than that, I don't really care about all that stuff. I care about Jesus. I'm trying to keep my eyes on the prize, and all of this distraction and chaos that tends to be coming mainly from him. And who's the author of chaos? It's not Jesus. So I'm just going to keep looking at Jesus because I don't really care about chaos, and I don't really care about, who that person is, because we're not here for that. So if you don't want to be here for whomever this person is that rises to rule and reign using the technology of the world, implementing a mark that makes you buy or sell, or you pronounce your faith for Christ and have to die, that's because you're having to buy your own salvation through martyrdom. Right now is the age of grace. You can accept Jesus and his sacrifice for you. He loves you. It's a free gift. There's nothing you have to do to earn it. You just have to believe and ask him if he's real. Believe on the one whom was sent. That's what he said. How do we fulfill the law, or how do we achieve, getting into your kingdom? The Pharisees were asking such questions, and he could have said anything. He could have said, pray this prayer, do these things, make sure you're good, do all good things, don't sin. And he said, believe on the one whom he sent, which is God. And he was speaking of himself, Jesus. Period. That's his words, not mine. So believe and receive. That was the last video I put up. If you didn't see that, we were talking about ask God and he will respond and answer you. And as soon as I pulled out of the parking lot, there's a gigantic container, like they put on ships to transport. And it had this beautiful mural, believe. And it's just sitting there in the middle of a field, like at the end of a parking lot. Why? Things that make you wonder. There you go, Ladybug. Lord showed me in 2017, Trump was the AC, couldn't really tell anyone at the time and kept it close. I was told at the same exact time, because when he wasn't elected, I was like, well, I don't know what to do. And I made videos. So here we go, folks. The times are a-changing. The storm, it's not coming, it's here. And that means that, drum roll please, Jesus is coming. Hey! Well, I'm looking up and I can't wait, because that is my hope. Because he planted that seed in me 14 plus years ago. And it's hard when you have that hope to want to continue and exist in a place where your king doesn't reside. It's not your home. It's hard to occupy enemy territory. That's really what it boils down to. I'm going too long, as I normally do. 18 minutes on the clock. I love you guys. Does anybody have anything you want to ask? Let's see what comes up. That's why we're interactive. Anyone want to talk about anything? Anyone want to say anything? Yes, today is the day of salvation. Time is running out. Jesus is coming. Thank you, Wilma. That was good. Yes, we want to be with him more than anything else. It's not something I put in myself. I just can't help it. Can't help myself. Rejoice in the Lord. Yes, we will rejoice in Jesus. All right, well, that's it. How do you find your career and purpose to be able to provide for your future family? Interesting. Jeremy says F-47. Yeah, that's the president, number 47. He had to put his stamp on that. Career and purpose to be able to provide for for a future family. You just keep on trucking right now. We have to continue to occupy until Jesus comes. So we have to all do our best to find the means to provide for our families. So sometimes it's difficult because we're peculiar people. We're different. When people want to hire me, they seek me out and find me on social media, and they go, okay, he's a religious kook. And a lot of times I've told you, it's been hard to get jobs because I can only get contract jobs. I can't get a real job because people find out the crazy Jesus stuff that I talk about. So everyone who's supported me, I appreciate it. That's the reason why I've had to ask for help at times. And it's not something I've ever wanted to do. In fact, when I'll never forget this, and I'll tell this one last story. When I started the ministry stuff, I was like, I will never ask for any money. I will never let anyone give money. It's not about money. And it isn't. Because when I go to see Jesus, I'm going to sit at the Bema seat, and he's going to say, did he do it for the right reasons? And I had somebody that sent me a direct message, which you could do on YouTube at the time. And they were like, we want to sow seeds in your ministry and send you whatever. And I was like, no. So I wrote back, thank you, but I don't have any money mixed into this. If that ever happens, I'm not going to be involved. And God had to humble me and say, And I was in prayer, and he said, no, you realize you are denying them a blessing. And I went, denying them? What is that supposed to mean? Denying them a blessing. He said, because they want to give with a clean heart to you, and you're denying them the opportunity to sow seeds in a ministry which is reaching people around the world. And I just didn't think of it in that term, that I was denying them. It was really something I was doing negatively to them. And I had to go back and say, listen, the Lord told me that I'm supposed to accept what you have to offer, and I'm sorry that I behave that way. Is sometimes you have to learn not only to give, which I'm a giver. I want to give to everybody, and I have trouble receiving. And so there is a blessing in receiving, and there is a blessing in giving, and you have to learn how to do both when you're a follower of Christ. So humility is a big thing. Antonio, I pray in Jesus' name that you're delivered from lust and pornography. You're probably a young man. I've been through it myself. I am now at a point where, my walk has progressed, and I'm 54. So we don't deal with that as much later in life, fortunately, and in our walk when we want to stop doing certain things. So I'm praying that Jesus delivers you from those things, those pitfalls. That's really a trap the enemy sets. One of the things I used to kind of chuckle at was that when I was driving through Missouri, they always had these big signs that were like it was some type of adult shop called the Lion's Den. And I thought, wow, well, that's a really interesting name. You're going to walk into the Lion's Den to go find your pornographic choice. So just think about that and talk to Jesus. There's no judgment for me, because I can tell you, and you can write me an email if you want to, and I can talk to you personally, because I don't, if you're a man out there and you say you've never been challenged by that in this generation, I'm going to say that's probably unlikely. However, I don't know your story, but I know that I personally have been challenged by that in the past too. When I was 14, I found a pornographic tape in my own household that belonged to someone in my household. So that affected me. I didn't know. I'd never seen anything like that. I was a very sheltered young man, very sheltered child. I didn't know. I went to church camp one year, and they're just saying things that this one word, and they were making fun of me because I didn't know what that word was. I'm not going to share what it is, but excuse me. It was embarrassing. And then I found this tape, and I'm like, whoa, what is that? Well, that's not anything I've ever seen. It's always good to be open and have discussions with your children when they're of the right age, so that they know they can come to you with anything. I think God does that, and he wants us to be able to talk to him about everything that we face. He sees it anyway. I think as parents, we know that we know most of the time. We're not really surprised. So I think that's a good little ditty, so to speak. I shouldn't. A ditty used to be, like a little story. I wasn't talking about the rapper. And God bless him too. You know what? People make mistakes. I don't know what his story is. We see stuff in the media, and we really don't know what's going on. That stuff's all theater. They just bash and bash and bash. Sometimes the people they bash are the ones they're just trying to keep in line. And sometimes it's a real travesty, and it really happened. But that's all gossip to me, because I don't know the man, and I don't know anybody else that's been involved in that. It's just all the things that we hear are just so heinous nowadays. Question: God's 7,000-year plan for mankind. In your opinion, research, what were we in right now in the years? We're in the church age. That's how I'm going to answer that. Go in the book of Revelation and look at the first 3 chapters. It was part of the story here, and that's the church age. And when 4:1 happens, then we go into the tribulation period. And I'm not really going to talk about all the years and things. I could get into that, but that's going to be a little too far. So anyway, I love you guys. Jesus is coming. If anyone wants to write, if you have struggles, if you have trials, trust me, I've been through it all. And I feel like I could, be someone that is definitely a sounding board. You'll get no judgment from me. Love you guys. It's a revolution of love. That's why, because Jesus was the ultimate rebel. Even Alice Cooper said, who is now a born-again Christian, the ultimate rebellion is not sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's trying to be a follower of Christ, or following Christ, however he said it. I'm paraphrasing. And I believe that is a fact. The ultimate rebel of the world is Jesus, and he's my king. What a glorious king. We love you, Jesus, and we can't wait to see you. I love you guys. I can't wait to meet you all in heaven with our king. See you soon. Keep looking up. God bless.